for listening to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in American soccer. And don't forget to subscribe.
Good day to everybody. It's Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast. Steven Jodderin, Aman Kafai, and we got a cool episode for you.
Yeah, we do. We have former U.S. men's national team player, U.S. Soccer Hall of Famer, LA Galaxy color commentator Cobi Jones joining us to talk about the LA Galaxy and the noisy neighbors, LAFC. Mm-hmm. We also talked to Atlanta United Supporters Group president, the Terminus Legion president, Austin Long, to talk about Atlanta United and their fan base they've created within that first year. Two great interviews on two different sides of the spectrum. One's MLS talk, one's kind of supporters talk.
But Armand, all week long we've been teasing a little announcement, but it's actually a really big announcement. We have signed a sponsorship deal. Yes, we signed a sponsorship deal with Away Days, and I found Away Days as I was looking for jerseys that are kind of not that expensive. You know, I have a jersey collection. 15 jerseys in my closet just waiting to be used day in and day out. The Away Days is actually really cool. Their number one bestseller actually is a mystery kit, which it's a kit that you know nothing about until you actually open it, which is actually pretty cool if you're asking me. And it's only $25 for an authentic kit. Like, you can't beat that anywhere else. No, it's really cool. So go to awaydaysfootball.com, buy what you need to buy. Get a $25 soccer jersey. You're not going to find that anywhere else. Type in at checkout promo code Uncle Sam. Receive an additional 15% off. It's a great deal. So it's a win-win. A really good quality product for a very great price. And then receive an additional discount. Awaydaysfootball.com. Check them out. Armand, let's just get straight to Cobi Jones. Joining us right now is LA Galaxy legend, U.S. Soccer Hall of Famer, and current color analyst for the Galaxy, Cobi Jones. Cobi, how are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. Thanks for having me, guys.
Cobi, the MLS season is actually like right around the corner. I didn't realize this, but it's actually in a week. Are you excited for the start of the season?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm surprised that you are surprised that it's only a week away. Yeah, everything's been gung-ho. For a lot of teams, it's already started with CONCACAF Champions League. I mean, they're full bore into it. So, yeah, everything that is going on right now, it's got me excited and geared up.
Do you think this is going to be the biggest MLS season yet?
As far as biggest MLS season, I mean, it depends on what you're thinking. As far as the size factor, I guess. I think it's going to be big as far as the numbers and people watching and the interest. But we haven't had, I think, levels like this ever, because I think it's a sport that's exponentially growing here. But, I mean, this is what you want to see. You want to see it grow and grow. And I think as more teams come in, the competition gets better and better, and it attracts more people.
Well, let's talk about your LA Galaxy. What are your thoughts with this new team from last season?
Well, I mean, you want to hear about last season, or you want to hear about where they're going?
Well, I mean, where are they going? Because last season they finished last. They were a complete dud. How's this transition been?
Oh, the transition has been a difficult one. I think, and more so for some of the players that, obviously got let go from last season to this season. I think it's a necessary transition, though. When we talk about the LA Galaxy and where they were, like you said, they finished last, and obviously not good. The way I look at it, the only way they can go is up, from there. It's been a process, whereas Ziggy Schmidt took quite a bit of time and his staff to kind of figure out where things were going. They've started to make that transition. As you can see, they made a ton of moves, in the off season, which have really, I think, are really going to help the team push to be even more dangerous than they were before, because they were always dangerous offensively. They just they didn't have that one finisher. And then on the defensive side, I think they're shoring up things in the back to not be such a sieve in that back line.
So which offseason signing are you most excited about?
Well, I was a midfield forward, so I'm going to go Ola Kamara. I mean, he's an out-and-out goal scorer with his time at Columbus, and as I mentioned, you look at the LA Galaxy last season, and you actually look at their play rather than their record. They actually still dominated teams, created a ton of chances, had a lot of possession, but just couldn't finish. And then they would give up, a silly goal. And then just fall apart at the wrong time. So now that they have Ola Kamara, that you look at it, he lives for the 18-yard box. That's where he wants to be. You're going to see a Galaxy side that will continue to dominate in the midfield and hold possession, but now they have that goal scorer that can put the ball in the back of the net. Now it's how to use him to the best of the abilities, how to incorporate him into the likes of the Dos Santos brothers and Alessandrini and others to really have them all on the same page.
What could be the biggest challenge facing this squad and this team this upcoming season?
The biggest challenge is going to be to see how quickly they can gel as a team. When you have so many changes from one season to the other, it's very difficult to really to come together and be a team, and more importantly, and what the Galaxy has as expectations, to be a competitive team. You look at the back line and the changes that they're going through. I think there's only going to be two, possibly maybe just one player starting from what we saw last season. Now those new players all have to get on the same page. The new goalkeeper, it looks like, is going to be starting in David Bingham. You have a new defensive midfielder in Perry Kitchen. So that back six, how are they going to gel to really shore things up in the back?
I felt like a lot of the time, whenever I saw the Galaxy play, that Alessandrini was actually not talked about as much within MLS, but I think he had a phenomenal season. How do you think Alessandrini is going to benefit from a goal scorer such as Kamara being added to the lineup?
Well, that's a good question, and I would agree with you. I don't think he was talked about enough or got all the laurels that he probably should have for what he did on a team that was struggling. I would like to think, and I think most people would think, that it's only going to help, that more attention will be put on others, so he can actually have a little bit more freedom, to create an attack and be that player, that winger that comes in and gets on the ends of crosses, but also puts the ball in the back of the net with with that fabulous left foot of his. So I'm expecting more from him, and I have a feeling that he's the type of player that tends to live up, to everybody's expectations.
What type of pressure is on Shiggy Smith this upcoming season?
I think there's going to be pressure on him, of course. I wouldn't expect it to be too much. I don't think it should be. I mean, he comes in at half a season, takes over a team that was in last place and struggling, and I don't think there's going to be a ton of look. You're at the LA Galaxy. There's always going to be pressure, but I don't think that it's going to be too much. And I say that because I've seen the moves that he's made already, and most of the moves are things that people like. I look at the team and I just go, okay, this is a team that's going to do very well. Now, unless there's a complete collapse of the Galaxy, I don't think he's going to be in have too many issues or too many worries, because I have a feeling you're going to see Galaxy at least middle of the road and probably, from the looks of it, making the playoffs.
No, absolutely. I mean, I feel like a playoff with the LA Galaxy is a lot more fun than them on the outside looking in. But can you talk about their draft pick that they had, Tomas Hilliard Arce? I mean, I've been reading a lot of things. It seemed like he was one of the consensus top players, and he was a pretty good college player. But what are the Galaxy's expectations for him going into the season?
Well, look, I mean, don't. How do I put this? Look, there's always hype when you score a couple goals. Look, preseason is preseason. I don't want there to be all this hype that, okay, he's the second coming, but he has talent. And one thing that I talked to Ziggy Schmidt about is when you talk about a player like Hilliard Arce, he's a defender, so there's an easier transition going from college to professional in that position. But he has all the abilities. He has all the skills to make it at the next level. And we've seen it on the offensive and defensive side. And I've seen it as I called some of those college games where he was playing up at Stanford. He has the talent. And talking to Ziggy, one of the things that is important to remember, that you have a team in college, that has won 3 championships in a row. There's probably some talented players on that side. And I think that's one of the reasons they made sure they went out and got Hilliard Arce to be one of those players that could help solidify and get depth at back line.
Cobi, let's talk about one of the biggest names in world soccer, and that's Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's been linked with the LA Galaxy. Do you know anything of this potential move?
I know some things, but I can't tell you.
You can't leave us hanging like that.
That's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
Hanging like that. Just get people talking again.
Well, is it a wink? Are you winking at us? We can't see you, so is it one of those winks? Can't tell you.
You can't see what I'm doing?
No.
Sorry, my bad. Look, he's a talented player. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing if Zlatan Ibrahimovic, comes to the LA Galaxy? I mean, I think everybody would have something to talk about, right?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure Zlatan would have a lot to talk about too.
For sure. But what would that mean for the LA Galaxy with bringing a name like that?
Well, it would be absolutely huge, for the Galaxy. I think within the soccer world, it would be a pinnacle move for the Galaxy for sure, because everyone within the soccer world knows Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Now, outside of that, I don't know so much. I don't know how much that's going to attract for the layman, so to speak. But that being said, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, just look at his quotes over the years. He would do and say enough that I think he would transition and start attracting others. There would be a lot of talk from local TV to whatever. I don't know. He'd probably say they need to name the Staples Center after me or something. That's his style, and I think it would be interesting.
Do you think that the Galaxy, what are the expectations for the season? You said playoffs, but could they do some damage? Beyond maybe the U.S. Open Cup, or sneak into a playoff and be a team that nobody wants to play?
I truly think so. I would agree with that. I always think, for the most part, the majority of the LA Galaxy, it's always been a team that no one really wants to play. Now, given, yes, over the past year or so, there was a change where people said, okay, we can put it on the Galaxy for a bit. But even in those games, when the Galaxy were on fire, you could see that they couldn't be stopped because, as I've mentioned 100 times, teams mostly scored on the Galaxy through counterattacks and fast breaks because the Galaxy dominated so much of the possession. It was unseemly sometimes calling these games going, do something, get the goal now. You need to do something about it. And they would always get countered on and scored on and then fall behind. That was a lot of the issue. So it's almost one of those things you just need a tweak here and there, because most coaches would tell you that they would love to have the ball the majority of the time. Now can we just finish it? Now if the Galaxy could have that finisher in Ola Kamara, if they've made enough changes in the back and they can gel and solidify, all of a sudden you've got a team that hasn't just made the one tweak or two, that they've made like 3 or 4. They could really, do some damage within the league.
Now, Cobi, I know we all know this. Actually, it's a World Cup year. I mean, I was gonna say I know, but it's a World Cup year, and we know the MLS plays through the world. Well, they take a break, but the World Cup will still have some sort of impact. How does it have an impact on the squad selection, also the team dynamics? I mean, you'd at least expect the Dos Santos brothers, to get called up. What type of impact do you think it has on the team and the squad selections?
I think it's going to be, difficult for the Galaxy. You're going to lose a couple of players and lose a few players, and I think that's going to happen to a lot of teams around the league as we see more players from different CONCACAF teams and now some CONMEBOL teams, going into MLS. So that is part of the import of having a deep squad. There's going to be, in this World Cup year, a lot of players that are going to be called upon to step up at the right moment and to perform. They're going to have to make it so that you continue to play, the same or better than when those players, take off for the World Cup. And as you know, in a World Cup year, and people go, oh yeah, the World Cup, it's like it's a month long and maybe like 2 or 3 weeks if you don't make it out of the first round. Well, no, it's longer than that because teams go in to their camp beforehand, probably about, a few weeks beforehand. And then you have the tournament. And then if teams do well, so you could see players gone for a couple of months. So you've got to make sure that your squad is not just the first 11, that it is a full 18 to 22 strong.
What about the players' mentality? How hard is it to judge, or how hard is it to tackle the upcoming season and then have the World Cup looming, knowing that, your performance will, be judged?
Well, I'll tell you this, and then you'll see it. Every player always seems to be a little bit fitter, a little bit mentally stronger, a little bit more excited in a World Cup year. There's always that belief that I need to be playing during the World Cup, and if I do well in the World Cup, the sky's the limit.
Right. Let's talk about the noisy neighbor miles down the street. How has LAFC impacted the Galaxy in ways in which we don't see?
I would say that's more of a behind-the-scenes thing, right? You see, LAFC, branding everywhere, So this is more of like the managerial side where it's like, okay, they're the noisy neighbors coming in just saying, hey, we're the top dog. They've got this beautiful new stadium that's coming in, and that's in right in the downtown LA area, right off of USC. So yeah, they're making a lot of noise, and they're trying to get a immediate effect on the LA community. Now I see them as being kind of they're coming across as like we're the hip young the non-conformative group. That's what they're billing themselves as. If that works, great. If that works for them, that's absolutely fabulous. I always imagine they're going to have, a significant fan base. I think LA is a city that can handle 2 teams, and we'll definitely find out. And I think it's going to be interesting to have this team that comes in, right away. And they've made some significant moves, getting Vela on the team and everything, and to see how they spar with the Galaxy. It's a couple of coaches that know each other well. There's be some players that know each other well. So it's going to be very interesting. Even some general managers that know each other well.
Now, back in around 2010, back when Chivas USA was around, I've gone through and I was rewatching some Chivas USA LA Galaxy playoff clips, and I found it interesting. Before Chivas USA was bought out and sold, I mean, they attracted quite a crowd, and the atmosphere at StubHub looked really exciting. Do you expect that same vibe, or do you expect something even better with LAFC coming in?
Well, I know LAFC is probably is going to be so angry at you for mentioning Chivas USA in the same sentence. They're trying to separate that as much as possible. Look, the Chivas USA experiment, I think everyone would agree, was a bit of a disaster. I mean, you don't minimize your fan base,
right,
so much, where you just have, for all the Mexican fans, you're only Chivas fans. You're forgetting all the other Latino cultures that are out there, all the American culture out there. You just minimize it. And the Chivas fans, the Chivas fans only think that it's the real Chivas is Chivas down in Guadalajara, not Chivas USA. So you've got a small base. And what you probably saw as far as their big games might have been the opening game or the game against the Galaxy. That was always packed.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That
was
always a rivalry. I can still remember to this day walking out with Jovan Karofsky for the first game against Chivas, and we were going out for warm-up, and the stadium was packed already. Now that it never happened for me where you had, StubHub full as everyone's cheering. That says something about rivalry in Los Angeles. Now, as you know, the team got sold, and then the actual thing got the rights, I guess you should say, got sold. That's how LAFC wants to see it, and then they defuncted the team, and then come back later. I imagine along the same lines, when we see LA Galaxy and LAFC matched up, it's going to be a packed house hours before the game. You're going to see the two fan bases going at it in a competitive, friendly way, nothing crazy, I don't think. And it's going to be an adventure. It's something that I want to see and be a part of, just because you have. I think when we talk about LAFC and what they're doing, and you see the stadium, this is a team that's not here part time. This is a team that's here to stay. And now it's going to be between the Galaxy and LAFC to see who the dominant culture, the dominant player is going to be in Los Angeles.
Cobi, I know you got to get going here, but talk about the LA culture regarding soccer. It's very multicultural already, but what's it like from a soccer standpoint as far as culture?
Yeah, it's a multicultural as you said, but I think it's got a heavy Latino effect to it, and a little bit of that flair. You have a culture in Los Angeles that has people from all around the world, but heavily on the Latino side. Looking at it, I think it's what we want to see, in the future. I think of U.S. soccer. This base of getting ideas from every different culture and different background, and taking the best and forming a team to compete at the highest levels. I don't agree with others out there that say multiculturalism is a detriment to soccer in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Not as far as I see it. I think that's the way of the United States and the way of the future. And I think we are smart enough and brilliant enough to find a way to make it work for everybody, to get the best of everything that we need to compete.
Absolutely. Well, Cobi, I want to thank you for joining us on the show today. And on the show, we do have a little section where we have a shameless plug, where you can plug away, where we can find you and all your stuff, when you can tell us when Zlatan is any more information on Zlatan. Just throwing that out there. But plug away everything where we can hear from you and all that stuff.
Oh, well, you can hear it, on Instagram at Cobi Jones, at Cobi Jones 13, Facebook, Twitter. I'm on there at Cobi Jones, and getting involved with the Evolve Project LA. I think that's something everyone should check out, especially in the LA area, as we focus on that a little bit, getting involved in helping build the sport in Los Angeles.
Well, Cobi, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you on the game day broadcast.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Armand.
Yeah.
When Cobi Jones laughed and said, "I know something," what was the first thing that went through your mind regarding the Ibrahimovic to LA Galaxy rumor?
Well, the first thing that came in my mind is Cobi Jones knows something.
Well, he said he knows something.
Which means if we're going to be reading his mind, that Cobi Jones just confirmed Zlatan Ibrahimovic to LA Galaxy. So we just broke that news on Uncle Sam's Soccer podcast. No. I mean, it means I genuinely think that he's probably going to come in the summer, which would provide a really interesting dynamic in LA.
He wouldn't say that if he weren't coming, or if the rumors, if he hears things of being more no than yes.
Yes. It's honestly going to be an interesting dynamic, because he wouldn't even come in as a DP from the reports we were reading.
Not even that, Armand. I'm not even talking about what Ibrahimovic would do for MLS. I'm just talking about if he's coming or not. Cobi Jones, if you read into it, and I'm about to play it again, let me play it back.
I know some things, but I can't tell you.
You can't leave us hanging like that.
That's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
Hanging like that. Just get people talking again.
I just don't think you're going to sit there and laugh about it if you weren't coming, because if you laugh about it, that means you're either covering something up or you're just kind of just like, just sit back and wait. He's gonna come at some point, and I think he's most likely gonna come over the summer when he's done with Manchester United and see how the season plays out. They're still in the Champions League. Hell, if Manchester United crash out of the Champions League, I think he could come sooner.
I mean, it's gonna be fun, man. If Zlatan comes, let me just say, everyone that doesn't want him in their league are all liars. You all want Zlatan, man. This guy's a personality, a great guy. He would be so fun for MLS, and LAFC would have to probably do something. Be like, okay, well, LA Galaxy just got probably one of the biggest international superstars. We gotta do something now and make a splash too. Provides for a little fun competition.
An arms race between LAFC and LA Galaxy. It's pretty dope. And it's a growing trend across the league with these inner rivalries. Obviously, you have the New York Derby. You have Cascadia Cup. Even in Atlanta, you have the addition of Nashville, now Miami, Orlando. That little section of the country is going to really be interesting to follow.
Rivalries make everyone better.
Really does. Speaking of Atlanta United, Armand, pretty big expectations coming up for them.
Yeah, they just made the biggest MLS transfer ever in terms of Ezekiel Barco, and they were really expected to make but potentially deep run until they were knocked out by Columbus, who instead made that deep run, and their fan base was immense.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, Steven, joining us right now is Atlanta United Terminus Legion President Austin Long. He oversees the day-to-day running of the organization. You can find the Terminus Legion on Twitter at Terminus Legion, and you can find Austin on Twitter at AustinLong1974. Austin, how's it going today?
Pretty good. We got Charleston tomorrow, and then we're about a week away from the season opener, so we're getting pretty excited.
Pretty excited is the word to be using, but Austin, Atlanta might be the premier soccer city right now in America. How the hell did that happen?
Well, it's really interesting, and I don't want to upset our fellow supporters in Seattle and around MLS, but Atlanta United was just waiting to happen, and from the announcement to the first game against New York Red Bulls almost a year ago, it just has been building, and I think a lot of people were waiting for this. Like most people, I'm a transplant to Atlanta. I moved here about 3.5 years ago, and while I've followed soccer my whole life, I'm a Manchester United fan, so I've had other ways to tap into my soccer fandom. But for a lot of people in Atlanta, they've been they've been waiting their whole life for this, and this is just it was like a dream come true for a lot of people, and there was a lot of pent up emotion and anticipation, and the game against the New York Red Bulls, I think the people who were there will never forget that, because it was just an amazing moment.
At one point, the national media was pretty much doubtful of Atlanta's soccer scene, and you had many people saying that it wouldn't work down there, and people right now are even critical of Atlanta as a sports town. What was the feeling when you kind of just proved them all wrong?
I think inside the soccer community, it was not. We were ready. I think outside, Atlanta sports fans don't have the greatest reputation. That was especially apparent to me from the outside looking in. Mm-hmm. But I think inside, a lot of us, what I found as I started interacting with supporters was we have a wide range of soccer, references. We have a lot of people who followed an MLS team or follow a European club. Fans were ready to do this, and inside the soccer community, I mean, we were doing tifos for. We did one for Chattanooga. We drove 90 minutes north. We played Chattanooga, and we combined with the Chattanooga. We did a 2-part tifo. We did a tifo for the first game in Charleston, and we just hit the ground running because we have a lot of American outlaws too. And so Atlanta is home to like over a dozen supporter groups for European clubs. This is not, for a lot of people, this was not their first rodeo. So they just need a platform, and they really delivered. From all the supporter groups, capos, TIFO, the March to the Match, tailgate. I mean, we were ready. We just, the dedicated, the season tickets went through the roof, and not all in the sports section, obviously, but I think fans were just ready, and they just want somebody to cheer. And, once Arthur Blank provided that, it was just time.
Now, Austin, we're a Dallas-based podcast, so FC Dallas is a really bad comparison. But when we go to games there, I'm always underwhelmed when it comes to fan passion. Just describe the day-to-day life as an Atlanta United supporter. Do you see jerseys on the regular across the city? Is it like what you see in Orlando, where the purple signs and all that?
It's really crazy because you see the magnets are on the cars all the time. People are wearing 5 stripes. You see somebody in an Atlanta United jersey almost every day. It really has taken over the city. The billboards are really prevalent. They have a couple now right around Mercedes-Benz. They just put the new one up. There's one of the drummers, Zach McGee. He's on it. He's like side by side with, I want to say Villalba, but it could be Martinez. Anyway, but Atlanta United's marketing has really done a great job, and fans are excited. This is something where there's really been a lot of different outlets too, podcasts, Reddit. There's several Facebook groups. People are just talking about all the time. We have great Doug Robertson for Atlanta Journal-Constitution, provides excellent coverage. There's just so much to talk about. I mean, there's like almost half a dozen podcasts now dedicated just to Atlanta United.
Wow.
And it's just insane. Like, we have for Terminus Legion, we have the Home Before Dark guys. They've been to several of our poker tournaments. They were at the last tailgate of last year. Mouths of the South, which is the Dirty South Soccer podcast, has been going for like almost 18 months now. They were in it before, even Chattanooga. They would just talk, for a week, a weekly podcast, news and tidbits, from Kenwin Jones being signed to the kit release to, where's Darren Eales going to next? And just people have taken to it in a way. I mean, like FC Dallas, I know you guys, I was down there a couple years ago, and Dallas Beer Gardens were awesome. I stood with them, and there's a couple different podcasts that, I've heard from that area, and it's just, I for whatever reason, this is new, and like people have taken it to a way that maybe other parts of the country haven't yet. But like I said, soccer fans in Atlanta were just waiting for a platform. I really believe that, and they have gone in, head first, both feet. Pick your metaphor.
Now, I was looking at your bio on the Terminus Legion website. It said you moved in 2014 to Atlanta, and you actually started attending Silverback games. Did you ever expect something as you just described back when you were just watching the Silverbacks play?
You know what? So for me, I'm a kind of a soccer nerd, and I've been around the country and gone to other supporter groups. So when I moved down here, I was like, okay, the Silverbacks are what's playing right now. I knew that, Atlanta United was still a couple years away. And so I was like, Silverbacks, great. So I came from Michigan, and, we had Detroit City and we had Lansing United. And by the time I left, there was like 5 NPSL teams there. So I knew, about lower league soccer, and I really enjoyed it. And so I came here, there was a Silverback. So I was like, that's, I can go watch live soccer just like I did, in Lansing or Detroit or whatever. And that's where I found Terminus Legion. And, then I found out about Georgia Revolution, which is down the road. And even, it's Silverbacks. I mean, Silverbacks have a couple good supporters groups. You have the Ultras, you have West 109. I mean, they're passionate fans. Regardless of the size, there are passionate fans in and around Atlanta, and I believe there's passionate fans in and around the United States, and they, they're just looking for something, whether it's, this, an NPSL team or a PDL team, or even, even lower than that, say they're lower, their USAFA team or whatever, and all the way to MLS. I mean, MLS you get, there's 40,000 or 20,000 or whatever. And so the proportions might be different, but I think soccer fans, just like going to games. And I think it has this, you can be a lot more ambitious and, really, really boisterous and obnoxious in a way that you can't be at other sports. And I think that really attracts people.
Austin, you got the Atlanta Falcons, you got the Hawks, you got the Braves, and Atlanta United. Where's Atlanta United on the chart? Are they first, second, third, or fourth?
Yeah, it's really interesting. 92.9 is our local FM station. They broadcast, Atlanta United games, and the radio personalities have really tried to engage the game. They're not. It's not superficial. They're really trying to learn the game, even if they're maybe not as familiar with it as they are, breaking down the Falcons depth chart. They could probably go 3 deep and know exactly everything, and maybe they can't do that with, say who's, Escobar or Barco. Maybe they can't do that, but they're really trying, and they put up these polls, and they're trying to gauge it as well. It's real. Atlanta is in this weird kind of crossroads right now because, you had the Falcons, 2 years ago, they snuck into the playoffs again. They're, if they're successful, they're going to be number one. I think it's going to be hard to overtake. But the Hawks, last couple of years haven't been great. The Braves moved to Cobb County, which is outside, downtown, and they are rebuilding in all capital letters. They really struggled last year, and so Atlanta United comes in, and not only are they new, but they're successful. They're dynamic. They're very exciting. I think that's really one of the big pluses for this team is they're excited. They're not new, and they're playing bunker mentality, park the bus, trying to survive. I would look at our friends in the north of Minnesota about that, but they came in and they tried to express themselves and play attacking soccer, and they have these amazing young players. Almiron, you look at their signings, right? Almiron, they could have spent money on, a more established player, but they went young. I mean, Vijalba, Assad, you have Parkhurst and the Runaways there for, say, veteran leadership. But the rest of the guys are young, and like I said, they're exciting. And I would say they're number two. Again, I don't really follow the Braves and Falcons and Hawks, but I mean, everyone's talking about Atlanta United, and not everyone's talking about the other sports. I'll say that.
I mean, we talked about high-powered offense. I mean, I was just looking at the schedule from last season, and when Mercedes-Benz opened, you have them beating FC Dallas 3-0, them beating the Revolution 7-0, a 3-3 draw with rival Orlando City, beating the Galaxy 4-0. That kind of entertaining soccer, it tends to attract people that usually say that, hey, soccer is a pretty boring sport. Do you think that helped?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, my boss came to the game against Orlando at the Bend, the first game where we went for 70,000, right? And he's a real baseball guy. He's like Braves through and through, and his wife got him tickets, and he went, and he's like, "Oh my God, what is it? I love this. What do I do next?" And there's a lot of people like that. The people. The casuals, is I think the bottom bowl is set up for 42.5, if I remember right. We got 35,000 season tickets. So, I mean, game day sales, when it's not opened up, you really have to be, you have to get in there fast, and you have to know some people in secondary markets and whatnot. But when they open it up to 70,000, there's those, extra 20, 30,000. Not only do, people are buying the tickets, but when they get in, they get hooked. I mean, after every, the 2 games where it was 70,000 and in the off season, people want to know, how do I get involved? They walk around the tailgate. What are you guys doing? What do I need to do to be part of this? And it's just an excitement that's been, I think, been building, not only the last, say, decade or 2 decades, but ever since the announcement, people have just been waiting for this, and it's just getting bigger and bigger.
Austin, what on the daily action or the game day action, is there something you guys do as a supporters group? I know there's multiple supporters groups, but how does it differ from other type of sporting events in Atlanta, and then even just across soccer, from what you see in England, Germany, Italy, Spain, to just even across the differences between Dallas, Atlanta, Seattle, Toronto?
Yeah, so I've been to about a third of the stadiums, I think so far, maybe 10. But anyway, it's really interesting. Like Seattle and Portland, they really can't tailgate, right, because of where their stadium is and other issues. Houston Dynamo, there was a little bit of tailgating. FC Dallas, I know there's been, you guys have a couple places to tailgate.
There's an attempt
but then
to tailgate.
Right. So it depends on the situation, right? And in the South, tailgating, sort of this college football culture, people have taken, soccer fans, people love their sports, regardless of what sport it is in Atlanta, and they sort of took the tailgating thing, and I haven't been to a tailgate on this level. I haven't been to all MLS stadiums, but like we went to Kansas City, a bunch of us went to Kansas City, and they have a couple beers set up, and maybe one or two people are grilling, and it's kind of a mild tailgate experience. But like in Atlanta, we have like 200 spots blocked off, and we have like 4 groups tailgating simultaneously, and that's just the recognized groups. There's other pockets all over. The parking lot that we're in is called the Gulch. It's right next to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and there are people all over the place. And we have grills, we have food trucks, we have beer tents, we have small pitches, we have soccer, tennis, we have TVs. When the Falcons are on, we're watching the end of the Falcons game before we go into the soccer game, and it's insane. Again, like I said, I haven't been everywhere in America, but I can't imagine that there's a tailgate anything like this in U.S. soccer culture right now.
Now, at the beginning of the season, you guys did start out playing in Bobby Dodd while waiting for the completion of the Benz. Can you talk about the difference in atmosphere between Bobby Dodd and Mercedes-Benz Stadium?
Yeah, that was a really interesting part of last year. A really interesting chapter. Everyone, Mercedes-Benz gets announced, and you see these renderings, and it's like, oh my God, this thing's amazing. Mm-hmm. And then, they hit a couple of construction snags. So they're like, well, we're going to have to play in Bobby Dodd for a couple games. And then it became half the season, and everyone's like, this sucks. And it's why do I want to go to Georgia Tech? And all the UGA fans got, all upset because they have to go to Georgia Tech. And, there was like all this stuff that could have gone wrong. And the first game was a night game. Yep, it was a night game against Red Bulls. Yep. And we were playing under the lights. You have the city in the background, and the noise in that place was amazing. I mean, it was really electric. Is like an understatement about what it was like. And from then on, people stood for 90 minutes. Now, whether it's because they were excited or the bleachers suck or whatever, they stood for 90 minutes, and it just created this environment to the point where when we moved to Mercedes-Benz, people were actually sad that they had to leave Bobby Dodd. And they won a game there, maybe one game there a year. I don't know if that will ever happen, but it just really turned around. And Mercedes-Benz is different. It's totally different in terms of the amenities and the Halo board. And it's just Mercedes-Benz, if you guys can get over here for a game, it really is a shrine. And it's amazing. But Bobby Dodd was something different. And I think in the end, we appreciate the differences. And while maybe the noise is a little better, Bobby Dodd, again, come July when we're in 72-degree comfort and not in 95-degree heat, I'm for the 72-degree comfort. So that's where I'm going to put my money.
Now, Austin, this upcoming season is going to be interesting to see how Atlanta United responds, because often with these expansion teams, you have a very big high expansion season, and then it kind of seems to fall apart. You just look at Orlando, it seems to have fallen a little bit flatter of recent years. NYCFC, you've seen attendance go down, in fact. But what do you think fans are going to react with the new additions and just being now at Mercedes-Benz on the regular?
Yeah, that is the 64 million, the $1 million question, right? So we've already had roster turnover, right? Yamil Asad goes to DC United, Carlos Carmona goes to Colo-Colo, Antoine Walks is gone. Went back to England. Mears, I think, is at Minnesota now. So we're gonna have roster turnover, but everyone's excited about Barco. The team itself, I think they're still going to be exciting. I think we're still going to have some chemistry issues as we integrate Nagbe and Barco, and we'll see how that goes. I think the team's going to be exciting. I think they're a playoff team again. I'm not sure if they are TFC level. I think if Toronto does what they're supposed to do, it's going to be hard to catch them. But I think Atlanta, if we can keep our players healthy and we have a more balanced schedule this year, I'm hoping that maybe we can get out of that fourth place game, maybe in the third. I think Atlanta United looking like a playoff team on paper. In terms of the fans, I think it's going to be interesting. We'll have a full season at Mercedes-Benz. I think a lot of people, I know, speaking for the supporter groups, we learned a lot last season about game day logistics and how we can improve. So I think from that, I guarantee you our TIFO and better. And I think for the casual fans, they're going to be more, okay, this is what I can expect, in terms of when they go into the game, what's going to happen. Now, so the casual fan, I think, will have a better experience. They're getting more educated. I think they're going to enjoy the games more. And, I think that Atlanta United really goes from strength to strength. I'm not going to be bold to say that they're going to win MLS Cup or anything, but that's tough. I mean, TFC has been amazing, and they almost got knocked out in the conference finals, right? They were almost out.
Right.
While MLS Cup was a great performance by them, they got as good. Columbus and New York Red Bull definitely challenged them. So to say that they're just going to roll again, I think that's a dangerous way to go. But I think you get in the playoffs and then you have to see what happens. I mean, Atlanta United lost to Columbus. Now, we could have lost that game 2 or 3-0, and we could have won that game 2 or 3-0. Both teams had chances. It was a much more open game than I think a lot of people would have anticipated. So, if we practice penalty kicks and maybe we win that game, maybe we get a little roll. So for me, like, MLS is about just getting to the playoffs, like American sports in general. You just got to get in the playoffs and then see what happens.
Austin, so the city has really taken on soccer. Where do you think this can go? Do you see Atlanta becoming the premier destination for footballers across the world to come in, integrate, and then maybe even use MLS as a stepping stone? Just because of the culture?
Yeah. I think the way Atlanta United is currently set up, that is definitely where we're going. We have the new training center opened up just about a year ago now. So you have that. Then you have Mercedes-Benz, which is an amazing facility with huge crowds. You have a front office. I mean, the front office really cannot be understated. I mean, Darren Deals, Bocanegra, Paul McDonough. That's what they're looking for. They are going into South America and finding these players. They understand that. I think they understand that MLS's place in the world. We are a selling league, and if we can get these guys early, like instead of them going to Vélez Sarsfield or wherever, if we can be their first step before they go to, say, Porto or Benfica or a lower Spanish team, before they finally make the jump to a huge club, that's how this is going to go. And if we can get Almiron now, we get him for this will be a second year. I would be at all surprised if he goes in the summer. I mean, so you get him for 18 months, but you make a little chunk of change and you just keep that pipeline going. I think Atlanta United specifically is set up for that. And in terms of destination, Atlanta United is a very diverse city. It's a very global city. And the South American, that sort of Latin contingent, has found a home here. They can be together. They can find, fellow whatever, pick your South American country. There are pockets of that all over Atlanta. So in terms of that, I mean, this can be a destination in a way that maybe other cities can't.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta is a huge city to begin with, and I mean, there's a big rag on Atlanta sports, but Atlanta United, from a soccer perspective, you sit there and you're like, it's really hard to point fun at them because everybody's just jealous. Everybody wishes that they could go to a stadium and just watch the game and be absolutely sold out. But Armand, you and I were talking before, and we were watching a video of the playoff game against Columbus.
I mean, like I've mentioned multiple times, I think that was one of the more exciting games in the MLS playoffs. Ended 0-0. I think it was a fantastic game. And yeah, I was showing Steven, I was like, before this interview, we have to watch the cell phone lights flickering on, and then the "We Ready" chant going on. That with 60,000 on a Thursday night doing that. Can you just tell us how that felt? I mean, that's almost like a culmination of all y'all's work, just in one shining moment for the season.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that they opened it up for the playoff game because I think it was a Wednesday or I think it might have been a Thursday night. So it's a weeknight game. So so are people going to come out? But they did, and I think it was 69 something or whatever. And in terms of a lot of things have happened this season that are organic, and some have been sort of planned and then have organically grown. I think a couple of examples of that would be the Golden Spike ceremony before the game. At first, no one knew what happened, what it would be, and would it be kind of clunky and sort of cheesy. But we had these huge, I mean, like, I'm not a hip hop guy, but I like when these guys walked up and everyone starts freaking out. 2 Chainz and some other people, it became like a big deal. And then we get Arthur Blank up there. It just became a bigger and bigger deal. So you wanted to see who was going to hit in knock in the Golden Spike. Then we have the "We Ready" chant. Footy Mob really does a great job of trying to integrate hip hop culture here at Atlanta United. And so, that happened, and it just became like a thing, really, especially towards the beginning of the game. And then the light thing, I wasn't really paying attention. I guess it was happening around me, but I was like white knuckling it. I think it was on 92.9 on, a bunch of the supporter group leaders went on their show in the tailgate. I was like, I'm scared to death about tonight. I was like freaking out. Because the margins were going to be so close. So like, I was like watching the game. I was like, how are we going to win this? And so I totally missed it until I saw all the video the next day. But so these things grow organically. The post game Golden Spike. You the guy comes up there and he gets a bunch of scars. They take selfies with people. I mean, we couldn't have anticipated that would have happened. But it just does. And we've been able to make the best of a situation. Like for instance, we're in the Gulch, which is literally almost underground. We have to go through a MARTA station to get to the match, right? And so we have to go on escalators, and it's a sort of stop-start thing. But we just, because in the end we'll be at the Home Depot backyard, and eventually it'll be a lot better. And that's what Atlanta United fans have done, regardless of whether they're part of a support group or not. They just figure it out. We had so many rain games last year, multiple hour delays, and the crowd just waited. And we had one game, I think it was Houston, where the march started going, and because of the lightning, they had to take cover, right? So they had to divert the march. They had to go underneath the parking structure, and they were chanting in the parking structure, and they just waited. And then the game starts, and they march in the stadium, and we just keep on going. And I think that's what, that was a big plus for supporter culture last year. Is just like Atlanta United fans didn't stop. Like Atlanta United uses the hashtag, don't stop, or we don't stop. And Atlanta United fans don't. They just keep going forward, rain or shine. Regardless of the heat, we had a couple afternoon. There was a New York game, and I think it was DC. It was seriously 95 degrees, and the sun is directly on the supporter section. Right. And they just keep on going. Like nothing stops us, and that's been really cool.
Absolutely. I mean, Atlanta United and the supporters is something that I think everyone in America could learn from. And I hope we learn from each other to really grow this sport. But Armand, I just don't know how we cannot talk about jerseys.
Oh, yeah. And this question is sponsored by Away Days. Use promo code Uncle Sam for 15% off. Austin, they added new King Peach jerseys, which at first I kind of didn't like them, but now I'm in love with them. What are your thoughts on them?
Okay, so King Peach has been it's in the Elaine Knight social media universe has been a very interesting topic, right? Mm-hmm. So when we saw the leaks, it was very basically the Houston Dynamo threw away their jerseys and we picked them up, right? Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of that, and like Peach, like we are the Peach States, or like, okay, I kind of get it, but then I learned that we're not even the largest peach producer in the United States, we're like third. And so then I was like, what? And so then it, depending on which picture you saw, it kind of looked, like I said, Houston Dynamo. It looked a little bit creamsicle, so that, and then, so a drink at the Varsity, which is this, sort of famous restaurant landmark here in Atlanta, is called the Frosted Orange. So I thought they were going to go Frosted Orange as a way to, sort of honor that. But then it turns out they went King Peach, and, it's based on one of the TIFOs we did last year for the NYCFC game. King Peach is, bigger than the Big Apple. And they went with it. And when you saw it in person, so they unveiled it. They officially unveiled it. Because of the internet, nothing's ever a secret. But they did a open training session the night before they left for Charleston. So if you were a founding member and you were lucky enough to get tickets, you could go. So before they come out and Arthur Blank makes a quick statement and like, okay, we're going to unveil the new jerseys. And so they did it, and they had a hype video, and they unveiled these mannequins around the training center, and you look at it, and it did grow on me, right? I didn't really hate it at the beginning, but when you see it up close and it's got that geometric pattern, sort of a hint to like your Netherlands Euro '88 kind of that sort of look, and it's not overt, it's very subtle, and so the orange is. I wouldn't classify it as peach, but again, I'm not a designer. I am sort of a kit snob, kit nerd, but I wouldn't call it peach. But what was really interesting, so in the end, I can live with it, right? So It is what it is. But what was really interesting is that they released a King Peach scarf, which sort of goes with the jerseys, but then the oranges don't match. So they have a mannequin with this the new shirt, and then they have a scarf draped over it, and that really bothered me. The other thing is the numbers they're really hard to see on the back of the jerseys. And then we found out that the authentic is like very see-through, very sheer. So that was kind of obvious in Charleston. But anyway, I say all that to say, Adidas is going to do what they're going to do. It's not awful. Again, it's not what I would have done. But Atlanta United is going to play things very down the middle, right? The name, their branding. Atlanta United 2, their logo is essentially, they just replaced the A with a 2 with the golden spike through it, right? They didn't come up with something crazy. They didn't, try to go like Bethlehem Steel or Slow Park Rangers or anything like that. They said, this is our second team. We're calling them Atlanta United 2. Moving on, right? They didn't make a big deal about it. So the King Peach doesn't really surprise me. They didn't, try and although I guess some people say the peach is an outrageous color. It's not that bad, right? A lot of fans would like to see the gold integrated more. I know that's one thing that, so if you look at the, I guess the LAFC away just dropped, it's got white with the gold trim, the Adidas marks across the shoulder and whatnot. So I think a lot of Atlanta United fans would have preferred that, but it's different. It's got, we needed a light jersey. It's better than the concrete and strawberry. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that in public, but I think it's kind of better than that. And so, they're just going to do something that's a light jersey. They're going to do slight tweaks over the years. And, in 2020, we'll get a new one and we'll move on.
Steven, you know what the jersey reminds me of?
What?
Whataburger.
Yeah, it does. That's a good Whataburger.
If you're placed Atlanta United crest with like the Whataburger, I think you'd make a Whataburger jersey. I mean, just throwing it out there, Whataburger. If you're hearing this,
yeah,
we can make a pretty sweet jersey. Austin, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciated you coming on, and we do a little something here on the podcast, a little shameless plug where you can plug away where you can find you, Terminus Legion, or anything you're involved in. So go ahead and just plug away.
Yeah, so Terminus Legion, it's terminuslegion.com. It's Terminus Legion on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our social media team does a great job of putting out content and keeping members informed. So, that's the place to find us for all of that. For me personally, again, Austin Long, 1974 on Twitter. I sort of tweet about soccer in general and ranting about Atlanta traffic. But mostly I focus on soccer, kit nerd, talking about jerseys, talking about, Atlanta soccer culture. I'm not able to help this year, but a plug for ATL Soccer Con. So it's atlsoccercon.com and ATL Soccer at ATL Soccer Con. On Twitter, J.R. Francis is one of the guys I started it with. He's taking over, and it's going to be June 23rd at Reraw. We're going to do sort of a World Cup watch party extravaganza. It's going to be all day. We're going to have supporter groups there and Sabudio and watching the World Cup and just making a day of it. So, and if you really want to hear me ramble and get into kit nerdom, soccernomad.wordpress.com. That's my old blog. Since I became president, I haven't had as much time to dedicate to that, but I did a blog and a podcast and explored a lot of the issues that it seems like you guys are, trying to get, U.S. Soccer and supporter culture and just, having conversations with fans and people in the know. So, when you guys invited me on, I tried to catch up on the podcast, and you guys are doing a great job, and I wish you guys all the best.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words, Austin, and hope to see you
in
Atlanta.
Get me a peach jersey.
Yeah. Oh. If we ever come down there.
If you guys are ever in Atlanta, please look us up, and so we go to. Are we coming to you this year? Because you guys, because you guys came to us. Yeah. So again, both, we enjoy having opposing supporter groups. We love to get a beer and trade scars and stories. And we'll be in the Gulch for now. And, if in 2019, when you guys come over here, we'll be in the Home Depot backyard. So, Dallas fans, feel free to stop by, find the Terminus Legion tent, and grab a beer.
There you go. That's all what it's about. Austin, thank you so much. And I guess we'll see you on the television somewhere in that stadium.
That's right.
Armand, Atlanta United it's an interesting story to follow, especially because we're in year 2 of this project. We have no idea what way it's going to go. Could it go up? Could it go back down? Could we see even more growth? I have no idea.
I really don't know, because you set the bar really high. There's a lot of things that could happen. Like you said, do other MLS teams emulate this? Do other MLS teams try to go for this? Does MLS see this as a model that's sustainable and can be used as a criteria potentially for expansion sides? Maybe that's what inspired the Detroit bid to go towards a stadium. It's a bid that, I don't necessarily like or love, but you can see why MLS would want it. You get more butts in seats. You don't have to create a new stadium. You just got to convert, pay some rent, or or in some things you don't have to pay for rent at all, and you get lots of people coming in and out. Your money's good. If you get 40,000 in Detroit, is that better than getting 25,000 in a Soccer Pacific Stadium? That's a question that I'm not going to answer.
Well, that's a very
MLS has to answer.
That is a very fair question to ask, and I think what would be interesting is with the stadium bids is MLS going to push for at least an all grass type of deal?
I mean, they should.
At least all grass.
And if you're building a Soccer Pacific Stadium, it's going to be all grass. But the problem is, if you're going to ask for stadiums that are in NFL, how are you going to implement this grass turf thing, kind of like they have in the new Spurs stadium they're building in England.
Yeah,
They have but how can you add that into a stadium that's already built? They don't want to spend that much more money. That probably costs a lot of money.
No, it does cost a lot of money, but I think you, as an MLS, need to put the hammer down and be like, wait a minute here. We're not going to get swayed and pushed over by these owners saying, well, look, we have a stadium. No, you need to worry about the product on the field as much as the marketing and being able to sell 40,000 tickets over 25 and having fans go nuts. I mean, USL is implementing a rule that you have to have a soccer-specific stadium by 2020.
Yeah, and that's the levels that we need in order to help growth of soccer in this country. Because, without a soccer-specific stadium, what do you have? Oh, a team playing in the NFL, or in this day and age, an NFL team playing in an MLS stadium. But, it is interesting because Atlanta United setting up this trend to where you see bids like Detroit being exposed. So what if, here's a hypothetical, what if Phoenix decided to play in the University of Phoenix Stadium in Arizona?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a scary question. If you're MLS, that's a very scary question.
There's a lot of things. You could be like, hey, look at this, what's going on in Atlanta. We can get that. And we'll play out in grass. It's a really interesting dynamic. Do I think there should be soccer-specific stadiums? Yes, but you have to take the argument from the other side. If a team like Atlanta United is having this great growth in an NFL stadium, who is there to say, yeah, we want soccer-specific? Well, you don't really want soccer-specific. Atlanta's not doing a soccer-specific. What about you? Why do we have to have soccer-specific? It's a question that, again, MLS not establishing those firm standards hurts themselves with.
Yeah, and the USL thing is very interesting because this has been talked about since 2015. There's an article on MLS.com dated May 13, 2015 by Dan ATL. And he quotes, "A critical part of our strategic plan is to have all USL clubs as owners or as primary tenants of soccer-specific stadiums by 2020. USL President Jake Edwards said in a release. That is huge. That is USL taking directions, I think, in the right direction.
I do. And
taking steps into the right direction.
Once you get this set up and you make the stadiums expandable, then I think you'll start seeing this soccer really taking off. Because I mentioned this so many times on this podcast, Steven, if the lower leagues aren't going off, then it's going to be hard for the major leagues to go off. I think the lower leagues are very important. And adding your own soccer-specific stadium, I think, is huge. And it's going to provide for a really interesting dynamic in terms of a potential pyramid where teams are going up and down. Absolutely.
Anyway, listeners, big shout out to our new sponsor, Away Days, awaydaysfootball.com. You can receive 15% off your entire purchase if you just type in Uncle Sam at checkout.
That's pretty cool, right? Just type in Uncle Sam and you get 15% off, and you get a mystery jersey. I've seen on Twitter just teams supporting or people supporting the team that they receive. Wouldn't that be pretty cool? You support like a random third division team in like France, they get promoted to Ligue 1, and you're like, wow, I was there since like day one, kind of.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's cool because sometimes you end up with U.S. connections that you just didn't think about. Just saying. Anyway, listeners, go on to awaydaysfootball.com, get a soccer jersey, give us a follow at Unc Sam Soccer Pod, Armand Kafai, Steven Jodren. We'll be back next week. Take care.